Hi guys, this is Mark. In this video, we'll talk about an API to manage relationships between the parent and child objects. Specifically, it is the API to either set relationships between the parent and its children or update existing relationships. We already talked about the API to set object relation in a one-to-one relations, and this is going to be an extension of that API. With one-to-many, there are special considerations because in a one-to-many relationship, one parent object may reference technically 0 or more child objects. So we have a collection of related children. And since it is a collection, you can add to that collection. You should be able to remove elements from the collection, or you should be able to reset the entire collection. So in this video, we'll talk about the use case of adding child objects to a collection of related children or resetting the entire collection. First, let's start with a slide to discuss the semantics first. Consider that we have two tables, manufacturer and product, and there is a one-to-many relationship going from manufacturer to product. So a single manufacturer may have multiple related products. Let's suppose that we have a relationship where a single object in the manufacturer table references two products. And the first API that we will take a look is the add relation API. With the add relation API, you can add additional products, in this case, to the collection of related children for that manufacturer. And when you use the add relation API, you can reference other objects and they will just join that collection. Of course, the same product may be referenced by other manufacturers, although it doesn't really make sense. But in other schemas where you have one-to-many relation, the same child object may be referenced by multiple parents, and that is absolutely okay. In this case, it doesn't really make sense semantically. So add relation just adds to the collection. Then the other API that we will take a look is the set relation API. So the set relation API technically wipes out the links that you already have in place. And then what happens as a result of setting a relation, all other relationships, they go away. The objects stay there, but the actual linkage between manufacturer and the product, it goes away. And then as a result of set, what you will have is essentially new collection, and in this case it is one, but it's going to be a new collection of related child objects. And that is a principal difference between set and add. And we will take a look at an example just to see how it actually works in action with specific logic that I have prepared for you. So for this, let's switch to Backendless console and take a look at this example of using an example of using this API in action. So for this, let's switch to UI Builder. And I have prepared a new page template that demonstrates the function of both setting relationship and adding to a relationship. For this, move the mouse over here and then click New Page. You will be creating a page from a template that is in the marketplace. It is going to be this template, Lecture 37, this current lecture, add set one-to-many relations. Let's give it a name and let's call it add set relations and click Create. This template works with database that you have imported earlier with countries and cities. If you haven't done that yet, if you haven't imported the data, you would need to do this in order to see this page in action. Just go back a few lectures and you will see a lecture where we introduced one-to-many relationships. There is a link in the description for that video to a file that you can download and import into Backendless. First, let's run this page just to see what it does and how it works from the user perspective, and then we will take a look at the logic behind this page. When the page runs, it loads a list of countries, and when you select a country, it loads a list of the cities from that country. Now, in addition to that, and by the way, the selected country is selected, highlighted with this border. On the right side of the interface, there is this form that you can expand to introduce multiple fields. By the way, this could be a useful technique that is implemented on this page just to see how I manage adding additional form fields or deleting specific form fields. By the way, it takes into the consideration which field you're deleting. So for instance, if I have fields A, B, and C, and you delete this one, then you have A and C left. So it deletes specifically that item, but that is just pure UI builder. And this page, the logic behind it is there only to demonstrate how to set and add relations. It is not production ready because it just will keep on adding cities. It doesn't do a lookup to see if that city already exists whenever you are doing set or add. So for any entry that you put into here and then click set or add, you will technically be adding new entry, new city, even if one already exists, and then establishing a relation. So, this perhaps conceptually may not be the best example because I don't want to start geopolitical wars of assigning a city that is not a does not belong to a specific country. So what we will do is I will just pick a country, and I know, for instance, Guam doesn't have a lot of cities here. So we have this city of Hecta and Maina or Maina. I'm not sure what the right pronunciation is. So for instance, if we want to add a couple of cities to this country, and just to keep things simpler, what we will do is we will say there is a city Hecta 2, and there is a city of Maina 2. Okay. Now, if I do add relations, what's going to happen is that two new cities are going to be stored in a database, and then the relationship between those two cities will be added to the existing collection of the children for Guam. So for instance, if I do add relations, now notice that Guam has these 4 cities. And by the way, if we go back and forth, it refetches this data. So this is what we currently have in the database. And that basically added 2 additional cities to the collection of cities for Guam. And now if we do something like this, so we just reintroduce Maina and Hecta. And if I do set relations, then this existing, all these 4 relations are going to be removed. The cities will remain. And then 2 additional cities are going to be introduced, okay? And the relationship between them will be created for Guam, for the currently selected country. So if I do set relations, now it goes back to Hecta and Maine. And that's a demonstration of how set and add relations work. Now I will go back into the logic for this page to demonstrate what that actual API looks like, so you can kind of see it from the logic implementation perspective. And for this, the logic for setting relations and adding relations are going to be behind these buttons. So for instance, for set relations, select the button and navigate into the logic for that button. And then the core of this is going to be right here. So in this block, bulk create, we'll just create, and we already know about bulk create. We had a lecture on that API. So bulk create will create an object for every entry, for every city that you typed in that form. And then that will return a collection of those newly created objects. Then this collection is returned back into the next block that we use, and that next block is set object relations. We already used that block when we were setting a relation in a one-to-one relationship. We have a video for that. But to go over the arguments that we have here in the set object relations, first of all, you identify the table that owns the relationship. So basically the table where the relationship column is declared. And then you need to specify the parent object, the one that contains that pointer to the multiple other children. And in this case, it is going to be the selected country, so I have a reference to that obtained through here. Third argument is going to be the name of the relationship column. And in this case, cities is a one-to-many relationship column declared in the country table. Finally, the children argument is a collection of children for which you are setting the relationship. So all other children that the selected country had at this point, they will remain in the database, but the linkage between them will be removed as a result of this operation, and new relationships are going to be created between this parent and the individual objects that are provided in the children connector. So these children are going to be the new cities that I just created. And then after that, we clear out the form and then we reload the cities. So that's the additional logic right here. So set object relations with these four arguments, it will work exactly the same both in codeless and in all our SDKs if you are going to program it with code. So, but now you understand conceptually what individual arguments are. Things are rather similar in the add relations logic. So let's navigate to the add relations button. And in here, as you can see, we again use bulk create to create the cities that are being typed in, and then pass in that collection that is resulting in bulk create into the add object relations block. So add object relations maintains whatever the relationships exist for the parent object, and it just adds to that list of related objects whatever children that you specified. And so as you can see, the arguments between set object relations and add object relations are exactly the same. The semantics of the actual API is different. One wipes out and establishes the relations, and the other, which is add, just adds on to the existing collection of relationships. It's quite straightforward. So here with this template, the value is that you can see the set and add in action, plus there is some logic of how to manage this dynamic form and load related children and so on. So this is becoming a rather a template that includes more functionality than just focusing on relations. This is it. I hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, happy coding.